Hello and welcome to the Womxn Show. I'm Lenina Rasool and today we are speaking about writing, literature and gender-based violence. After the break, we're going to be speaking to Haroldene Tshienda, who is the founder of Shofar Books that publishes books by local and international authors and also by survivors of gender-based violence. But before we go into that conversation, we are going to have a look at a short video looking at what Shofar Books is all about. Let's have a look.
For the best novel, the winner is Johanna Alexandra with Schooner Lava Throw.
I am here to speak to our authors. Without you, we have no library. Have you ever gone to a library and seen nothing there? They are, in the city of Cape Town, we have 4.5 million items in our libraries. Wow. And you guys contributed to that. We have 102 libraries across the metropole, one in each of your areas. And so what I would like us to do is it's become partners. I'm here to encourage you to build a relationship with your local library. Honest to goodness, get your book launched, get your book into our libraries. Librarians have a lot of power. They actually go out and buy the books in that particular library. They have full sort of autonomy in terms of the book selection. They look at the community needs. I think Dr. Paula said about topical content. Top content that is relevant to the particular community. We know that gender-based violence is a real challenge in our country. We know that the situation about Jocelyn going missing, all of those things have impact. And if you can keep your stories real, and if you can keep your stories relevant, we will be buying your books. And like I said, we have 4.5 million items in our catalogue, but we had 6.5 million people visiting our libraries last year alone. So you have an audience. It's coming to the facility. They might not have much money, but they will be reading your item. And I think at the heart of every author, it is for somebody to get to read my book.
Yes.
I mean, what is the point of writing something if nobody reads it? And it's not always about fame and the money. And sometimes, like some of the authors, some of the speakers have said, writing is about healing. I don't know who of you journal. I myself journal, and I am, as a trained journalist myself, I write a lot. I haven't published one single book yet, but like Dr. Paul said, there 52 and only 2 made it. I probably don't know 100 and none has made it yet, but it will get there. But sometimes writing is about healing. And it's not about, it's about the one-on-one. If you need that one person to read that one book that you wrote on that particular day, showcasing your story, telling your story, and you made impact, and somebody changed their life around, then your life is successful. And so we are here as the Dear Cape Town Libraries, me and my team, we are here to partner with you in your journey to success, not just material success, but also emotional, spiritual, and every other success that is not measured by finances. And that's my story.
Thank you. That was a short video looking at Shofar Books. We are going to take a short break and we'll be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching the Womxn Show, and today we are speaking about literature and gender-based violence and the importance of telling and writing our stories for solidarity, for education, and for healing. And joining me in studio, I'm so excited to introduce Haroldene Tshienda, who is the founder of, initially it was Tshienda Publications, but now it is Shofar Books it has become. And Haroldene is a publisher, and she has not only published her own books, I think 8 of them, and Haroldene will tell us, but also she publishes the books of many other people who generally would not have access to the publishing industry. Haroldene, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So Haroldene, I'm so excited to be in conversation with you. You know, in the introduction, I was mentioning that, you know, gender-based violence is a specific focus of Shofar Books, and so a lot of books that you have published are also the books of survivors who have been telling their story. But before we go into sort of that link with GBV, I wanted to just get a sense of, I wanted you to give us a sense of who you are, how you got into publishing, and what is Shofar Books all about?
Oh, no problem. I'm originally from Port Elizabeth. I came to Cape Town in 1999, but it was not for a vacation. I came with a broken heart, lost, rejected, and I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I came here with a small baby, 2 months old, and I changed my whole life. My mom said, you need to get away from all the gossiping, and you need to start a new life, and away from home will just be for you. It was the worst first year for me, because I didn't know anyone in Cape Town except the family, my sister that I lived with. But I'm in Cape Town now for 25 years, longer than I've been in my own hometown. So you kan maar sê ek is amper soos 'n Kaapenaar. But I'm in Cape Town for 25 years, and I got divorced and married again, 4 beautiful children, and I own 2 businesses, which is one with my husband, Own It PC Solutions, and one that I manage, which is Shofar Books, where I not just publish books, but I also publish books for authors within South Africa and abroad, other African continents as well. And that is kind of like the baby that really stimulates me, that makes me happy. You know, I think each one has something. It's either you a sports person or music, and being creative, and being in a space where I can evolve and change and make nothing out of something out of nothing, is a very happy place for me. And this is basically what I do daily, and also writing books for myself, about my life, my journey of falling, rising, overcoming, finding myself, you know, and winning these ugly wars that we have to fight, the internal wars. My books are all about that, and that is a little bit of who I am. I think on top of everything is I always say, especially when it comes to that time of the month, I wish I was a man, but above all, the greatest joy that I have is being a mother, and setting an example for them to look at what women need to endure, but not only that, how women can overcome everything that was thrown at them, but was supposed to destroy them. And I think my children, I'd like to leave a legacy, that type of legacy for my kids one day. So above all the titles that I am, being a mother is high on top of the list.
Thank you, Haroldene. And that's such an inspiring story. I wanted to, you went into writing. It's such a difficult thing to do. I'm sure you hear all the time. People want to tell their story. They want to write their story. They're afraid they are not writers, or they don't, especially for, I think, people of color, people from townships, the Cape Flats and so forth, or marginalized communities. We feel like we don't fit the profile for someone that's meant to be a writer, or
Yes.
what a writer is made to look like. But your journey started with writing your book.
Yeah.
And so, when I Googled you,
Yeah.
for instance, some of the first articles came up, and I think it was, I don't know, want to say, maybe about 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, there were some media articles about this woman who had written a book for the first time, right? So you've written these books. How did you get to that space? And what, what were your first books about?
My first book is entitled Never Give Up. And the time when I started my writing, I always wrote, journaling forever. But I've never written to either get healed or using it as a healing method. I didn't write to get published. I only wrote as letters to myself, because I personally went for counseling sessions, and I saw psychologists and people to talk to through the divorce that I went through, losing my children, through custody and so forth. I was missing from my work. I didn't know, there was no one that I could trust, not even a family member, because I remember my mom sent me to Cape Town to get a better life. Now I have this life, but it's not a good life, not happy. I'm loving someone else's dream. And in that situation, in that moment, I started to write to myself, because God has already blessed me with a job. And because to jump the traffic to Cape Town in the morning, I was already 2 hours before my work start. I started to work, and that is when my writing journey started. So 2 hours before I start working at 9 o'clock, I would start writing. And I walked away from writing, and I got the laptop from my workplace, and I start typing, and I worked with social workers. We did programs with unemployed and orphan and vulnerable children in Guguletu and in the other northern areas. So in that time, I just started to write, and they asked me, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm in the break." I wrote this poem. Maybe we can read it for a program. And the feedback, okay, it really carried me. So my writing journey started with me writing to myself. Me finding myself, because in that time I was totally isolated from everyone. I was on my own, fighting to see my children. That time I didn't even know I was divorced. So I was at the place where I tried to find myself, how to do shopping, how to just be free, because I've never been free. I always felt like I was watched. Wherever, or I will be criticized on whatever I do. So I was really a very scared individual, and being on my own, learning to do everything on my own again, to dress without anyone telling me how to dress, how to comb my hair. I was just so, I learned myself. I learned about myself, what I want, what I like, what I didn't like, and what I need, and what I didn't need. So I wrote about all of that. But one of the first things I wrote about was the title of my it was Never Give Up, but it was, and I get very emotional when I mention it. Even though it's so many years ago, it's still very raw. It was I Want My Stuff Back. That was the first title of my book, of one of my poems that I've written. I want my stuff back. I want my personality back. I want children back. I want my virginity back. I want everything back that was taken from me. And even though it was very impossible, At the time, I got most of the things back that I've written. It was a declaration in a poetic style that I've written that I am going to get it back. And piece by piece, I built my puzzle back together with the help of God. And you would think it will be women that was able to help me. No, it was men that was actually helping me. And that's the reason why I'm in a position where I want to help other women. Yes, I want to help men to treat women better, but my focus is mainly on women and children to teach them how to be confident and bold and not taking nonsense from anyone. Doesn't matter if it's a sibling or a family member or a parent. You don't take nonsense if you know who you are. If you know your stance, you know where you belong, no one will ever treat you any different, because why people treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And that is one of the main things that I love doing, is empowering women to be on top of everything. And sometimes you get so busy in life that you forget, especially when you're a mother, you're a business, you need to serve everyone, and then you get so tired, and then you realize, but I didn't put myself on top of the list for a while. Then you have to start that self-love journey. Here is baie werk, man. But if we can just teach ourselves that all the time, that you matter, your story matters. Stop swallowing, because why? What you keep inside affect your organs, and our organs were not designed to keep so much stress and bitterness and anger and unforgiveness inside of you. We were made to be healthy and free, so we carry burdens, and it affects our organs and become unhealthy. And it takes a lot of time and effort to get back on the road again, after you've been derailed. So my work as a woman, to woman, is it's a lot, because the men says, I can almost say that a lot of women, and it's sadly to say it, hulle loop nog met skille oor hulle oë.
Yeah.
They are so afraid to. I just yesterday spoke to one of the poets. They are so afraid what that person would say when they start writing. It will affect lives. I said, okay, almal gaan aan met hulle lewe, but you don't love. Start loving. Start saying what matters and how you feel. Stop covering and worrying about what people will say about the story. This is your story. Let them tell their stories in their way. This is your story, and tell it unapologetically.
I love everything that you're saying. It's so I'm feeling like it's very ironic, because actually as I was driving in this morning, I was having like this whole thought process on like how much, imagine if you did for yourself, if you go for yourself in the exactly same way that you do for other people. So and I was thinking even small things, like I'll go to the shop for somebody else without thinking about it if they need something. How do I, when my daughter asks me things, for instance, what energy I bring to fulfilling that need that she asks me, and yet I don't do that for myself. Everything I need to do for myself is like an extra effort, or I will even resent my own needs because there's so much else to do, right? And what would life look like if we just honored our own needs and our own asks, and also to thank ourselves for it, because we are the ones doing it the same way we thank other people who do things for us, right? So I love that whole thing. Haroldene, I want to ask you, and so you giving some context. Obviously, what I'm surmising is that you came out of a relationship that was very controlling, because when you speak about, you feel like you're being watched, and you feel as if you're being watched and you're being criticized, and you're talking about just the way the clothes that you were wearing and the way that you wear your hair. It resonates a lot with me, because when you've been in a relationship for a long time, a lot of women defer. And we've seen research, we will defer to do whatever everyone else wants to do, and especially when that's a partner. So when when I've ended long relationships, I mean, one of the first things was like, and I consciously would ask myself, like, oh my goodness, like, what movie will I watch if I'm going alone? Because back then there was no Netflix, so you couldn't hire movies. Like, what movies would I choose if I were choosing alone? And I would go to a restaurant and say, like, what would I order for myself if I'm not like discussing it? And so all of this points towards people like not really having a sense of themselves, not really having a sense of who they are and what they like, and how this impacts, I think, how we move in the world. And so, how does writing, and you're also speaking to a process for you where you started writing to yourself, and what that did was start exposing like who you really are, who this self is, who you are outside of other people.
Yeah.
Is writing, is that part of like how to use writing as a tool? Do you think would you recommend? I mean, I think I'm just asking, how has writing served you in that way in getting to know yourself better?
Wow.
That was a big question.
Writing was my medicine.
Yeah.
That was a very big question. And the best antidote from all the things that was told. You are stupid, you are nothing, you are a mistake, yeah, yes, fit. There was a lot of things that I was told to, and I believed all of that. I believed that I need a man because it was told you need a man to give you a life. You are nothing, and you need a husband to make you a woman, and how can you walk like that? I was told a lot of things, but when I started to write, because I can't blame my perpetrators. I can't blame my parents all the time. I had to take responsibility, and I made an outline of what I need. And from all the counselors, there was one guy. His name was Ezekiel May. And he was from the day hospital in Paro. He was a psychologist. And he said to me, who's Haroldene? And that was the first time someone asked me that question. And it was the first time that my mind shifted to me. Who is Haroldene LaRue Hector at the time? And I didn't know who it was. What do you like? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What do you like to make? What makes you happy? I didn't know, because I was always in a bubble of satisfying everyone and not me. And I had to write down, because it was not someone that can tell me that's your favorite color. Okay, if you say so. I had to write down, this is what I like. I actually like this. I don't like that. I had to make a SWOT analysis about myself. And funny enough, I got a job where I had to do a lot of SWOT analysis with unemployed youth. And in that moment, I've been the facilitator, but I had to facilitate it to myself as well. And that is how I got my healing. But through that, I found myself, what I like, and it was difficult to unleash, and also to let go of bad habits, unlearn bad habits. So I had to also learn to say no. I can't make it. I can't do it. I had to close doors, and I had to say no for a lot of people and a lot of things in order to find my being, what I was made, who I was made to be. And I fell in love with myself, girl, when I started shopping clothes that actually fits me. And I bought me heels, because I was never allowed to really wear heels. Kijk, ek het vir my begin koop met my laaste geld. Whether it was those crap shops in Cape Town, I would go, and in Paro, I would go and do things that matters to me. Homemade facials and just things to make me happy, because I never had a chance to do that. I was married very young. I survived rape, and I never told people about it. And all the things that I carried with me as a young woman very heavily, it started to evolve and came out. And that is what writing did to me. And I can thank writing for that, because if I didn't stipulate it down, then I would have never. You have to write down, just like you want to write down your goals for the year or what you want to achieve. You need to write it down. You need to prepare a to-do list, what you want to do for the day or for the week. Otherwise, you're going to be like a leaf. You're just flowing, you're just traveling, just as the wind blows. You need to have order in your life. And writing brought me so much order. It brought me satisfaction. It made me focus, so that whatever happens, I knew this can't derail me. I will go back to that person again. And it really helped me. It caused tears and fights, unbearable shame, but I keep your shoulders straight, eyes straight. You know who you want to be at the end of the day. Don't
I
let
love,
anyone ever manipulate you.
sorry, Geraldine, I
And once
love
you are,
everything that you said, but we need to take a short break quickly, and then
okay.
we will be we will be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching The Womxn Show, and we are having such a great conversation. We are speaking about literature, we're speaking about gender-based violence, we're speaking about healing, and we're speaking about the importance of writing our stories or telling our stories in support of healing, in support of getting to know ourselves. Still with us in studio is Haroldene Tshienda, who is the founder of what was Tshienda Publications and now became Shofar Books. And Geraldine is an author, a poet, and also through her company, she's a publisher of other people's books here in South Africa, but also abroad across the African continent. And Geraldine, before the break, we were having this intense conversation, and you were speaking about how much writing just led you back to yourself, or led you, I don't even want to say led to,
Yeah.
it's not even back to, it's like helped you discover yourself, after
Yeah.
a long period
Yeah.
of sort of, I think the words that you used was being very reactive to everybody else and putting everybody else's needs and being sort of raised with that. And I think women are. I mean, it's resonating on so many levels because we speak about how girls are raised to be submissive and to please everybody else, and how there's, and I love that you brought in, I just want to say, like these things about even having to figure out. I think a lot of people might be shy to say they don't even know what they like. They don't even know like
Yeah.
what clothes to wear, whatever. Those are, when you're an adult, those are things like you're supposed to know.
Yeah.
But generally, even girls, I have a phobia. My mother, I don't know what she's going to say when she watches this, but I say to people, I had a problem with dressing because my mother always used to tell me what to wear. And she used to force me into certain things. And the way I rebelled as a teenager would be then not to figure out what I like because I didn't have money yet, but then to look like untidy, And so you never,
Yes.
it's so possible that, and especially then you get into a relationship with someone else who then feeds in what your persona is supposed to be like. And you can literally go many, many years, many, many decades, get into your 20s, 30s, or 40s even, and not know who you are. And so we were speaking a lot
Yes.
about, you were speaking about
Yes.
using writing as a tool to sort of find out who you are. And I just want to pivot here also into, now we look, now then you wrote your story, you launched a publishing company, and you said one of the sectors, and so Shofar Books publishes across the board. It's not just women's stories, it's everybody's stories, but there is a special focus also on gender-based violence, on women who have been through, and I can understand how that's personal, but maybe you can speak
Yes.
to us about how you use the company and the platform to support and help women who have been through gender-based violence.
Yeah. It's quite, I won't say it's simple, but there's a scripture in Habakkuk 2, verse 2 to 3 that says, make your story known on a tablet so that a herald may go with it. My name is Haroldene, and the meaning of Haroldene is warrior, ruler, commander, and queen. That is the meaning of my name. And spiritually, it was completely aligned with the vision that God has given unto me. New things happen when old things die. And I had to lose everything. I had to find myself alone. A lot of people think that they're alone when they're going through the tables. When you're going through stuff, means scars. But God does not isolate you to be lonely. You are not alone. You are alone for a reason, to transform, to remove old things, and make room for new things to happen. And in my situation, why I established Shofar Books, or Tshienda Publications at the time in 2015, was mainly a is. And I took myself, I put myself in every equation, as a child, as a youth, um, as an adult, as a young woman, as a married woman, as a divorced woman, a woman who got her life back together. Um, and I'm heralding stories of myself, um, and now for others. But the reason why I started this journey based on Habakkuk 2 verse 2 is for me to help others get the stories out there. I say I am a voice for the voiceless, but it's easy to say it, but your action speaks louder than words. So I created this platform for people to share their stories, because there's a lot of stories out there. People in America making movies about our stories. And I said, no, man. And the Kratawa movie was one of those things that really came to me at the time. Yo, die mense van Amerika kom vertel Kratawa se stories, maar is dat ons storie? Dit was hier in Suid-Afrika gebeur. So those were the things that really pulled me. It was highlights and said, oh, I need to do something for our people as well. And when I say our people, I don't say just women in color. It's for all women, because um, we are all, as jy vir ons gaan sny, ons almal se bloed lyk presies dieselfde. There's no color, but dan is jy alien as jy ander color bloed het. But Shofar Books is now a platform for people to share their stories. Let's say it was like poetic justice. If I can't tell in your face how I feel about you, I will write a story about it. It's creative writing, and you can't sue me for it. But this is just a platform for anyone who has a story and it does not feel confident to get the support from me and my team to help you write it. And bring it out in the world and herald it so that others can be healed, and others can hear your story, and you can then break cycles for the next generations, so that the children and your children's children don't need to deal with the things that you have to deal of your ancestors. Because I still had to deal with problems that my mother didn't deal with, that her mother didn't deal with. And I am the last born of a family. And I said, y'all know, this is where it ends. My children will not suffer the way I'm suffering. They will not carry the burdens that I had to carry of not talking and speaking. They will stand up for their right. Whether they are heard or not, they will not keep things in the dark, because that is how the enemy have legal rights on your life, because you're keeping everything inside. Y'all know you need to voice it, and that is basically why Shofar Books was initiated and established to be the voice for the voiceless, to herald stories, to unleash and unlock things that we cannot, because we are pregnant. It's sad to see how the graveyard is full of especially the elderly people who died with amazing stories. Because as hulle net hulle stories van mense kon vertel het, then we could have dealt with it long time ago and don't sit with the same stuff. Because there's a lot of time, most of the times if you read stories, my ma het met die gekom, my ma se auntie het met die. We just need to take, this is the only time that we have to leave a legacy for our children. So even if we die, I had a client who died last year. Was it last year? The year before last year, in November. It was a year ago, and he submitted 8 titles by me before. He submitted 8 titles in 2021. Wow. He published 3 titles. He died last year, November. Year before last year, November, and the other 4 titles, 5 titles, was published after his death. It was a sudden death. And Dr. Mark Scuddy, and we honored him last week, 2 weeks ago, when we had our first Cape Flats Literary Awards. We honored him for publishing the most books one client in such a short period, even after his death. You know, and his wife flew to Cape Town to honor him and receive his award. But why I'm saying this is only because for me, our words will linger on. Our words are treasures. Um, a lot of things, mense kan fight oor huise en karre en money and a lot of things. But the only treasure that people really keep is those last words of someone that are already gone. You know, that's gone, that will never be heard or seen, but the words will be here. And for me, is leaving those legacies and stories for our children to read, but not any stories, stories of overcoming. And that is why shofar, the name is shofar, because shofar is a symbol of, when you blow it, of overcoming and declaring victory. Even though you don't see it with your physical eye, you have to see it with a spiritual eye that you are an overcomer. What happens now will not last forever. It's just a season. And that is why shofar, the name is shofar, so that we can herald and share and declare victory over all the things that was done to women. Ek weet nie hoekom het die Here vroue so sterk gemaak nie, because we can handle anything. Truly handle anything. That's why you get the man and you get the woman. Because we are women. Ons kan ons dra alles wat die man ook kan dra. But a man cannot do what a woman can do. Hy kan nie daai pyn verduur wat 'n vrou moet duur maak as hy moet geboorte gee nie. There's no way, you know. A man cannot see what women can see, because we are birthed with that sixth sense, that undeniable feeling something is going to happen, whether it's good or bad. Is baie seldom dat jy hoor 'n man het hy gevoel, but we are so potent with potential and gifts, and not a woman can tap into those. And I like to know that if I'm not around one day, that the things that I overcame and how I handle it will be the legacies for not just for my daughters and my son, but also for other women and their children and their children's children.
I love that, and I think I was just having conversation, and I said to you when we spoke on the phone that I had been speaking to Latifa Jacobs, who is one of your authors and who published Letters to My Perpetrator, which is the collection of essays. And I was also saying, it's very fascinating when we look at and just showing how important this work is. It's fascinating when we look at the history of women, and especially then women of color, and publishing, because it's almost like last in line to publish. And if we think about where we are, we have so much catching up to do in terms of telling our stories, because the stories of women were not published for the longest time. When I read my daughter sometimes, when I read try to read books about women from the past, it's so interesting to see there are countless amounts of women throughout history who had to pretend to be men just to get published. So they had to use a man's name. And I would say because it was illegal, or because women just weren't allowed. But on that note, Haroldene, I want to say, we started out this conversation and I said to you, so a lot of people are hesitant and afraid to start writing. Whether it's in a journal, whether even before they even think about publishing, and they feel like, I'm not a writer. That's the first thing people will always tell me when I say to them, you have a great story, you should write it down, and they'll say, I'm not a writer. And we try to overcome that, and we say, I believe everybody's a writer. If you're writing down, if you're able to write down somebody's phone number or directions, you can write. And then everything else is, a format and a system and so forth that we can learn. But the truth is, historically, the publishing sector or industry is very elitist. I've also seen that when I look at the history of women's, the erasure of women's stories, or the way women's stories have been rejected throughout time because it doesn't fit certain molds of what the publishing industry says books should look like, or books should sound like, or what is literature. And so, can how does that fit into? You've defined it. You've said our stories are important, and there are ways to publish it that we're going to publish, and you help authors self-publish. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
sort of, you know, the perception of what is literature and which stories are important?
All stories are important, in my opinion. All stories are important. You get people who go through different things, who are reading and buying books for different reasons. One buy or write it or read it for leisure, one to share their story, one to make money, one to leave a legacy or just for the fun of it. We all write and buy books for their own reason, and each author, you and I can go through exactly the same thing, but we are two complete different individuals. You have your own fan base, your family and friends. I have my own family and friends. There is no competition, and a lot of people make this industry about a competition, and I always treat my authors, there's no VIPs. We are all VIPs. Nobody gets special attention. And the reason for that is whether your book is 20 pages, whether it's 500 pages, the quantity, the text, everything is important because it came from you. It's something that you have given birth to. Um, and giving birth is not easy because your body must be prepared to go through the 9 month process, and so as a book, you have to be mentally prepared for it. You go through a lot of things and you put a lot of time and effort into it. You evolve, you transform, you find things about yourself, and for me, those are valid reasons. But the industry is very competitive when it comes to having true stories. There are certain type of books. If you go into any, I don't want to say the name. If you go into any well-known brands, trading companies, you will see most of the books in there are international authors. Where's our people's stories? Maybe it is because it wasn't good edited well, or the printing quality is not good, or it's not sellable, the cover is not so attractive. There could be different reasons, and that is why we are changing the narrative of a self-published author. Because when people say, you self-publish your book, okay, which means you actually paid for it, so it's not valid. Nobody really recognized your book. But I have a story, I have news for that person who thinks like that, because I wrote 8 books, and 4 of my titles were selected by bookshops and libraries, not only in Western Cape, but also in Johannesburg and Northwest Province. Your story matters. Even though that one person does not accept your book, another person will accept your book. So by by I partner with MJ Books, and I partner with individual editors who can assist me with editing, because we get a lot of volume of submissions. So I have my editors, I have my printers that I work with, and I have these graphic designers. I do most of the designing, but I do partner when the work becomes too much. I have illustrators where you want handwritten illustrators, or digital illustrators, or painters. I have all those people who work as freelancers for me. Um, but we are changing the narrative in the sense of printing the best books that will last a lifetime, not just for a few years, last a lifetime. Because if you go into any second-hand shop and you see books that was published in the 1700s, those books are still existing.
Exactly.
So my job.
Haroldene, sorry, I really don't want to cut you, but we got 2 minutes, and I'm so excited
Oh
by
my God.
everything that you said. I know it goes very quick. I wanted to, how can people get in touch with Shofar Books? I need to get that out there before we have to go to break.
Okay, no problem. All the information that I spoke about, and what you need, if you want to know more, is on our website, www.shofarbooks.co.za. Everything is there. You can also get hold of me through my email or my cell phone, 074-7491-700 or info@shofarbooks.co.za. Our Facebook page is more busy than our website. So
Yeah.
just Shofar Books. They will see all the stuff that we do weekly and the books that we have available and authors coming out. We're just excited.
And the events that you do. Haroldene, thank you so much. This has been such an inspiring conversation. It's been such an informative and educational conversation. I'm hoping that everybody out there is inspired to write their story. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Keep well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. We are going to take a short break, but we will be back with more after this. Welcome back. You're still watching The Womxn Show, and we've been having a great conversation about the importance of stories and writing and literature to raise awareness about gender-based violence. Now, this is not the first episode where we spoke about the importance of writing, literature, and gender-based violence. In the past, we've had episodes where we've interviewed authors who have told their story about the story writing process. And one of the things we did was compile a short video showing those stories and also tips to get you started. We are going to play that now as a short recap. Let's have a look.
Hello, I'm so excited to be chatting about some of my favorite topics today, which is reading and writing, and most especially reading and writing for healing. So we're going to start by going through a few books by authors who have been on the show, who speak about GBV and who have written memoirs, just to get you into the swing of things about how to start writing about trauma. So one of the first books that I'm going to tell you about is by Desiree Ann Martin, and it's called We Don't Talk About It Ever. And it's a really important memoir because Desiree Ann Martin details her life from when she was very young, speaking about some of the domestic violence that she experienced within her home. But the title of the book speaks about the fact that there is a culture of silence around domestic violence and around violence in general, and it just talks to the impact that that silence had on her in the rest of her life, which includes a drug addiction and her way of moving through that and healing and going on to become what she is now, a counselor and working with survivors. It's a really good book, and I would recommend it. A second book that we're going to look at is called My Shack by Lynn Kirchhoff. Now, Lynn Kirchhoff came onto the show a while ago to speak about child sexual assault. She herself was sexually assaulted by an uncle when she was 10 years old, and she writes about the effect that it had on her life. It writes about the family dynamics when a child is sexually abused, what that means for the family, and also what a rape trial looks like for a very young child, and then goes on to, again, the rest of her life, how she started speaking out about it, how she managed to find healing, and how she's still processing a lot of those things. And the third book that we are looking at now is Glowfly Dance by Jade Gibson. And Jade speaks also about the effect of domestic violence on children. She was a child when her mother was murdered by her stepfather. So we are looking at femicide and also the journey of a woman who's experiencing domestic violence that ends in femicide and what that was like for Jade. And so we have profiled these three books as an example or a starting point for you to go and have a look at how other authors have written about their trauma. And as the authors came onto our show, they spoke about the healing nature of writing about their trauma. They speak about the healing nature of writing about vulnerability and of breaking the silence. And so as we look through these books, though, and we move on to possibly, if you feel comfortable, writing about your journey and your vulnerabilities, I'm going to state one of the first things is that when you are reading these books, to understand that before a book gets published, it goes through quite a few hands. It goes through a professional editor. And so even though the stories might look very polished, first drafts never are. If you decide that you want to start writing about your trauma, the way I do it is I journal in private journals. I just write out my thoughts, I write out what happened, I write out my feelings, and I leave it there. And I do that because for me, writing is a form of release. And the second tip that I'm going to leave you with is write like you speak. So writing is very intimidating. When you do write it down, there's a book called The Artist's Way that speaks about shitty first drafts. The first draft always looks terrible, but it has no bearing on the healing aspects of writing. And so that's as much as I have time for right now. So I'm going to leave you there. Happy writing, happy healing.
That was a short video listing some authors who have written their stories of gender-based violence. And that is all we have for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lenina Rasool. Goodbye.